There's an organization that sounds really nice, the World Bank, helping poor countries develop, building schools, fighting poverty.
Sounds good, right? Here's what they don't tell you.
Every dollar the World Bank lends comes with strings, invisible strings that control how countries run their economies. And who controls the World Bank? The United States. For 75 years, America has used the World Bank as a tool, not for charity, for control. It's the most sophisticated economic control system ever created, and most people have no idea it exists. Let me show you how it really works. 1944. World War II is ending. Europe is destroyed, Japan is destroyed, everything's in ruins. But America, untouched. The war happened over there, not here. So the winners met at a fancy hotel, Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to redesign the world economy. The U.S. had a simple pitch. We're the strongest. We have all the money. Let us run things. And they created two organizations, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The World Bank's official job? Lend money to poor countries for development projects, roads, dams, schools, infrastructure. But here's the trick. The U.S. set it up so they would always be in charge. The World Bank has a voting system, but it's not one country, one vote. It's based on how much money you put in. The U.S. contributes the most, so the U.S. gets the most votes, about 17% of all votes. That doesn't sound like control, right? 17% isn't a majority. But here's the genius part. Major decisions need 85% approval, which means the U.S., with 17%, has veto power. Nothing major happens without American approval. It's rigged from the start, but it gets better.
The president of the World Bank? Always an American. Not by rule, by tradition. 75 years, 13 presidents. Every single one, American.
And the World Bank headquarters? Washington, D.C., 3 blocks from the White House. Now let's talk about how the loans actually work. Imagine you're a poor country. You need money for a power plant, for roads, for hospitals. You go to the World Bank. Can we borrow money? They smile. Of course, we're here to help. But then comes the fine print. They call them structural adjustment programs. But really, they're rules about how you must run your country. Want the loan? You have to privatize your state companies, cut government spending, open your markets to foreign investment, reduce regulations, cut social programs, devalue your currency. Basically, you have to restructure your entire economy the way they want, not the way that works for you, the way that works for American interests. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Ghana, 1980s, poor country, needs money to develop. World Bank offers loans, but there are conditions. Ghana had free education. World Bank said charge school fees. Ghana had subsidized food. World Bank said remove subsidies. Ghana had state companies. World Bank said sell them to private investors. Ghana needed the money, so they agreed. What happened? Foreign companies bought Ghanaian assets cheap. Education became expensive. Poor kids couldn't go to school. Food prices went up. Poverty got worse. But the World Bank got paid back, with interest. This pattern repeated everywhere. Jamaica, Kenya, Philippines, same conditions, same results. But why? Why would the World Bank push policies that hurt poor countries? Because it's not about helping poor countries. It's about opening them up, opening their markets, opening their resources, making them dependent. Let me show you the real game. Poor countries often have valuable resources: oil, minerals, cheap labor, farmland. But if the country controls those resources through state companies, American corporations can't access them. So the World Bank loans come with privatization requirements. Sell your state oil company. Sell your state mining company. Who buys them? Usually Western corporations, often American, at discount prices. Here's a real example. Bolivia, 1990s. World Bank loaned money to Bolivia. Condition? Privatize the water system in Cochabamba. Bolivia sold the water system to a private company. American company Bechtel was involved. What happened? Water prices tripled. Poor people couldn't afford water. People protested. The Cochabamba Water War. Police and protesters fought in the streets. Eventually, Bolivia kicked the company out, took back the water system, but the World Bank, they threatened to withhold future loans, punishment for not following the rules. This is the system. Take the loans with conditions, or get nothing. But there's another layer to this control. The World Bank loans are in US dollars, always dollars. Why does this matter? Because most poor countries earn money in their local currency. They borrow in dollars, but they earn in pesos or rupees or shillings. If their local currency drops in value, suddenly the debt gets bigger. And guess what the World Bank often requires? Currency devaluation. They make countries devalue their own money because devaluation makes exports cheaper, which benefits American companies buying resources from those countries. But it makes the debt bigger, harder to pay back. So countries need more loans, which come with more conditions. It's a trap. And if a country can't pay, that's when the IMF steps in. The IMF is like the World Bank's aggressive brother, even stricter conditions. Argentina, 1990s and 2000s, took massive loans from World Bank and IMF, followed all the conditions, privatized everything, opened markets completely, cut spending. Economy collapsed anyway. Worst depression in Argentine history. Poverty rate hit 57%. People rioted. The government fell. Multiple presidents in 1 month. But the debt still owed. Still had to be paid. This happened to dozens of countries. Same playbook, same results. Now here's where it gets really dark. Countries that owe money to the World Bank, they vote the way the US wants. United Nations, World Trade Organization, climate agreements, human rights votes. Poor countries in debt vote with America, even when it's against their own interests. Why? Because if they don't, funding disappears, loans get called in, economic pressure increases. The World Bank isn't just economic control, it's political control. Vote buying on a global scale. This is how America maintains global power, not just through military, through debt. But some countries figured out the game, and they said no. China, early 2000s, started offering a different deal. Poor countries needed infrastructure, roads, ports, power plants. World Bank said, here are loans, but you must privatize everything and follow our rules. China said, here are loans. Build what you need. We'll even send workers to build it. No political conditions. Sounds too good to be true, right? It kind of is. China's loans come with different strings. Use Chinese companies, Chinese workers, buy Chinese equipment. And if you can't pay back, China takes ownership of ports, of infrastructure, of assets. Sri Lanka borrowed billions from China for a port, couldn't pay back. China now owns the port for 99 years. But here's what scared the US. Countries were choosing China over the World Bank because China's offer was simpler and faster. World Bank loan takes years. Applications, reviews, conditions, negotiations. China's loan? Months. Sign the deal, start building. By 2010, China was lending more to poor countries than the World Bank. America's economic control system was being challenged for the first time. The US responded, started calling China's loans a debt trap, started warning countries about Chinese influence.
Which is ironic, because the World Bank invented the debt trap.
But the criticism worked. Some countries became more cautious about Chinese loans. Meanwhile, the World Bank tried to adapt. Faster approvals, fewer conditions, competing with China.
But here's the thing. The system is still rigged. The U.S. still has veto power, still picks the president, still controls the agenda.
Poor countries have been asking for reform. Give us more votes, more representation. The response? Tiny adjustments, a few more votes here and there, but nothing that threatens U.S. control. Because the World Bank isn't designed to be democratic. It's designed to maintain American dominance. 75 years, same structure, same control, just with better public relations. So what does this mean? It means the global economy isn't free, it's controlled. The World Bank, the IMF, the World Trade Organization, they're all tools of the same system. A system designed in 1944 when America was the only superpower. And America has fought to keep it that way. Every country that tried to opt out, punished, sanctioned, isolated, sometimes invaded. Countries that play along, they get loans, they get access, they get to survive. Now, you might be thinking, why should I care? I don't live in a poor country. Here's why it matters. This system keeps poor countries poor, which means cheap labor, which means cheap products. Are cheap clothes made by workers in debt-trapped countries earning dollars a day? Are cheap electronics? Same thing. Rare earth minerals from countries that had to sell their mines to pay World Bank debts. The system benefits American consumers with cheap goods, but it's built on keeping billions of people in poverty. And here's the kicker. It's creating enemies. Countries that have been exploited for decades, they remember, they resent it. China's rising influence, Russia's pushback, countries forming alternative alliances, that's all a response to this system. Countries trying to break free from American economic control. The world order built in 1944 is cracking because it was never fair to begin with. So what can you do? First, understand the system. You can't change what you don't understand. Second, question the narrative. When you hear World Bank helps poor countries, ask how? Under what conditions? When you hear China's debt trap, ask, what about the World Bank's debt trap? Both can be true, but only one gets called out in Western media. Third, support reforms. Global institutions need to be democratic. One country shouldn't have veto power. Poor countries should have equal say in decisions that affect them. And fourth, share this information. Most people have no idea how the World Bank really works. They think it's charity. It's not. It's control disguised as help. Drop a comment. Tell me what surprised you most. Did you know about this? Does it change how you see global economics? Subscribe for more videos that reveal how global power actually works. Because the world makes a lot more sense once you understand who's pulling the strings. The World Bank, helping poor countries or controlling them?